Northeast Nevada Wild Horse Eco Sanctuary, Commissioner Drew for possible action.
Yeah, in June we had an opportunity, and I think at least two of the other commissioners were able to take a tour of Spruce Mountain. On that tour we had a BLM representative who was able to convey some of the planned eco sanctuary plans as part of the tour. It seemed at that time that there wasn't a lot of detailed information. Since then, the BLM did file a notice to proceed with an environmental assessment process and an EIS. The scoping deadline for that EIS was actually last Friday, and it obviously didn't work. They only gave a 30-day response period, and obviously didn't work with some of our timelines. But I think, in my opinion, what this commission may want to do, based on our knowledge and experience of seeing the area firsthand, is still provide a scoping letter to the BLM. I know NDOW provided late last week a comment letter of their own on some of the technical concerns, and really they were looking for more information. But I think the commission might be well served to submit a scoping letter just to get involved with the process, even though it is late. I don't know that we necessarily have to support the NDOW letter at this time, because most of it was really requesting more detailed information. So I would suggest writing a very similar letter and seeing what maybe some of the other commissioners' concepts or thoughts are at this point. But I've got a few specifics that I saw on the tour, and what I saw was concern in terms of the lack of water in the area, a concern with the vegetation due to the importance of the winter range for both elk and mule deer, and to a lesser extent sage grouse. The issue of fencing with an eco sanctuary and how you keep horses in while at the same time allowing wildlife movements into and out of a critical winter area. The whole concept of whether this will be a reproducing or non-reproducing herd, and how that conversion will take place based on the current cattle AUMs that are in place. Spruce Mountain, the Spruce Mountain project, obviously we heard about that on our tour. There's a ton of proposed restoration projects going on there, some of which I think we approved for heritage funding, so how the proposal might alter that project. And then also one of the issues that got brought up during the tour was what kind of contingencies might there be if there was a disaster like a fire that took out a large portion of the eco sanctuary. So between our tour and taking a look at NDOW's letter, those are the issues that I think we need to raise and ask for more specifics on in any correspondence that we send to the project team.
Okay. Any commission comments? Commissioner Rain.
I think if you're looking for an argument, you're going to have to pick a different subject than this one. I've written down a couple of points for some, let's just figure out the method if we want to do this. I'm thinking, who are we talking about writing the letter? I mean, clearly the chairman ought to write it, ought to sign it. Yourself to write the letter under the exact guidelines you had. I could probably go ahead and make a motion on that after everybody gets done, or unless somebody's got a better idea.
Okay.
Yeah, just to be clear too, I wouldn't have any problem in drafting a letter. So.
Commissioner Macbeth.
I'm looking at NDOW's response, and it doesn't mention anything. It doesn't appear to mention anything about sage grouse. Are there sage grouse in this on these allotments?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it would seem to me that would have been a really important thing to point out, that that if this is in any of these core sage grouse areas, that would be a really important reason. And so
there could be, and I suspect this to be true, communication between BLM and our field staff and what they'd plan to focus on, and so I'd have to talk to Alan why he specifically did not mention. There's a lot of other things that aren't mentioned on here that I suspect are going to be part and parcel to the EIS. So
But I would certainly support a letter going from the commission.
I'll ask
Any other comments? This is an action item, so we'll take it out to public comment. Is there any public comment on this issue? Mr. Hyatt?
John Hyatt, 8180 Placid, Las Vegas. This is a scoping issue, and so that means that you need to provide everything you can think of that they need to address in this. And there are a lot of issues that need to be addressed. One of those issues is, how do you actually have, if they propose it, a non-reproducing herd? Unless you're going to sterilize every mare in there, you have the problem of horses coming from outside in, because with that many, with mares and stallions outside, you're definitely going to have horses that'll come right through the fence, unless it's a very, very stout fence. And then all it takes is one stallion, and now you've got reproduction. And so it's great to have the idea of a sanctuary. We already have wild herd management areas, which essentially are sanctuaries. And of course we have to round up horses periodically because they're reproducing and there's no real effective predation. But I'm really concerned about the precedent set with establishing an eco-sanctuary, whatever that is. I don't think anybody knows what the definition is at this point. But there need to be some real thought needs to go into how this proposal would move forward if it does, so that wildlife is protected and the horses are protected, so we don't wind up with horses that are starving out there, just like we wind up with dogs and cats that are starving because people want to have a sanctuary, private sanctuary for them, and they wind up with far more animals than they can support. And so I'm really concerned that this be handled with due attention to the importance it deserves. Thank you.
Thank you. Gil?
Gil Yana, Carson Advisory Board. Our board discussed this at length, and we got into a long conversation about the issue about just how many horses are being maintained both by the federal government right now, by state agencies and county agencies because of various regulations within those counties, and the funding to perpetuate this eco sanctuary. If something were to happen to its funding, what would happen to all the horses? Who does the responsibility then fall upon? I think, Commissioners Macbeth and Drew talk about, are there, possibilities of sage grouse in an area, other species that could be affected by, allocating all that area just to protect some horses. What do we do to the other species that live on that same habitat? Obviously, you're going to write a letter. We're going to hear more about this. We're going to hear about the EIS that eventually gets generated, and maybe more information will come to the surface. But, somewhere somebody has to bite the bullet and say, just how many horses do we need to maintain at the public's expense, or even private expense? But we all know what happens to private funding sometimes. So we like the idea. The idea may have some merit, but we sure don't know enough about it to be able to support something like this. And we're worried about the long-term effect on the habitat and the possible situations that could arise that could upset the balance. And so we ask people to be very cautious about what we support and what we don't support. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lane?
Karen Lane. I just have a question for you because I don't see it online. The NDOW's response, is that online somewhere? It says NDOW's response to BLM's issuance of a notice of intent. Have you Are you working on that, or has that already been done, or?
Karen, I think you're just responding to you're referencing the letter written by Alan Janae, just Northeast Nevada Wild Horse Eco Sanctuary Environmental Impact Statement Scoping. It's just a response from the department, Ken, I think.
Yeah, we had discussed trying to have that on in time for support material, and I think the department just finished it up late last week. And so I saw a copy of it through the email, but I don't think it's posted on the NDOW website at this time.
Is it going to be, or is it going to be available? So,
yeah, and it will also be available, it should be available through the BLM project website, as will all letters that go in, all correspondence they
Right.
receive, they'll post, so.
right, okay.
Commissioner McMinch, it is available online.
Yeah, Grant's saying it's online.
Did
He's
I miss
looking
it
at
then?
right now.
Because I just looked at it.
It's on the agenda support material for today's meeting.
Yes, and I,
It's listed, it's the last thing listed in that section.
okay, then I must have missed that. Sorry, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission for possible motion. Commissioner Rain.
Let me throw it out there and help out Mr. Drew. Move that Commissioner Jeremy Drew be requested by the commission to write a letter directly along the lines he outlined previously with additional emphasis on sage grouse, and this is in reference to the Northeast Nevada Wild Horse Eco Sanctuary, that he prepare this letter for the chairman's signature. And just to clarify something that's come up a few times in the past, note that the chair's signature specifically gives the chair full authority to send it back for modification. I mean, just want to throw it out as a sub-note.
Okay, we have a motion. Commissioner Drew.
I would, well, let me wait for a second.
I'll second the motion for discussion, please.
Okay.
The only proposed amendment I'd offer, Scott, is two things that I heard during public comments. One, there's a question on what's going to happen with the current herd management areas. There are three current herd management areas in that unit, and I think Gil touched on that. And the other one was on funding. Who's going to fund it, and how will that mechanism work? So those are the two points that I would bring up. And the other...
Okay, for the additions to the agenda that I'm agreeing with, they are...
funding and
for Suzanne, for the record.
management of current herd management areas.
I would include that as a friendly amendment.
And I would accept it as a friendly amendment.
Commissioner McBeth.
Will the letter involve discussion on sage grouse issues?
I believe it said with an additional emphasis on sage grouse.
Yeah, I think
Spade
he covered
did
it
that.
in his initial
The
motion.
motion carried that.
Okay,
Did I
any
miss
further-
anything?
Any further discussion?
I'm going to make a second motion to amend the main motion that the commission actually takes a position that we do not support the proposal at this time for the specific reason that we have a lack of specific information, just so that we're on record. I'll second that.
Motion is-
We could just accept that into the main motion.
I would accept it as part of the main motion.
So it's accepted as a friendly amendment to the main motion.
And I think it's important that we keep our minds open to this thing, because we don't know where it's going to go exactly. But I do think that it's very important that these issues are addressed and brought up before we really, our default is no until we know
And,
that they
all
can.
right, so I just asked Suzanne now, are we clear on this motion? It's a little muddled. Do you think you got it? Okay.
All right, Commissioner Morai.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What kind of a deadline do we have, scoping deadline do we have to get this completed?
We're actually already past the scoping deadline. It was last Friday. Typically, though, BLM will still bring those letters in and put them in the project file and include them as correspondence. So, like I said, they only provided us with a 30-day period. It landed right in between all of our meetings. But like I said, my recommendation at the front was to still provide a letter for the record.
Any other questions? Commissioner McBeth?
Just a comment, I think the one issue that's mentioned in the letter ought to be stressed about a horse-proof fence, because that is a habitat fragmenting issue. I mean, it's going to cut it off, because I have personally seen a proud cut gelding climb an 8-foot chain link fence to get to a mare, and so I can't imagine what a stud wild stallion would do to get to mares.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous. We're moving on to agenda item number 19, Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioner Committee Assignments, Commissioner Jack Robb for action. I've spent quite a bit of time working with Commissioner Drew looking at these, and one comment I have on the committee assignments is, well, a couple comments. There's not going to be a whole lot of changes. Former Chairman Macbeth did a pretty good job on them. The changes that will be made will reflect current attendance at commission meetings, and try to concentrate on those people that are active on their county advisory boards showing up to the commission meetings. Their per diem and all that is paid, and try to avoid, we had some people calling in from a long ways away last year, kind of made a couple of the committee discussions difficult. And there's people that show up on a regular basis that I do believe deserve a shot on these committees. So with that being said, I'm going to go through the committees, and Commissioner Drew, jump in anytime you have anything. But I'm going to go through them one by one. I'm just going to do them here online. The Administrative Procedures, Regulation, and Policy Committee, I see no reason to make changes. If Commissioner Macbeth is still all right with being the chair, I believe that one has the proper people on it, and we'll continue with that one. The Bear Committee, Commissioner McNinch, I couldn't ask for anybody better to be the chair of that one still. We've resolved a lot of the issues. There's still a few outstanding issues, but it's not what it was at one time. So leave that one the same. With what I just said about having people actively attending commission meetings, there is going to be a couple of exceptions to that, and the Bear Committee is one of those. It's a regional issue. So Catherine Bricker is an integral part of that committee, and Judy Karen is also an integral part of that committee that has been involved in that committee for a long time, has a background, and the time that we have spent on those committees, I'd hate to lose those people. So that's a committee that I do not see any travel occurring or out of town type activities. So I plan on keeping Judy and Catherine on that, even with my prior comments. Duck Stamp Judging Committee, plan on leaving it the same. Elk Damage and Incentive Committee, Commissioner Wallace, Commissioner Morai, Shane Bourne, he's a friend of mine. I haven't seen him in a while at a commission meeting. Corey Lytle lives in elk country, and Corey is a more active participant at the commission meetings, so I'd like to replace Shane Bourne with Corey Lytle. Finance Committee, Gil, you do a great job there. I appreciate it. Don't see any reason to make any changes there also. Legislative Committee, this is one that there is outside people involved on. Kyle Davis and Chris McKenzie. They do not attend commission meetings regularly, but they do stay actively involved in the wildlife stuff, and they are both at the legislature on a very regular basis, and they are key to our ability to stay on top of things that the commission needs to stay on top of in Carson City. Commissioner Drew is there a ton, but we do need other people in that building that are there on a regular basis, so that's why I want to keep Chris McKenzie and Kyle Davis on that, and Tina Nappy is also there on a very regular basis and one of our great allies. With the recognized political involvement of Commissioner Young, I would ask that he would join that committee. I think we need more involvement with our Southern Nevada people, not just at the legislative building, but he has connections down here that I think we can really lean on and rely on to help us get our message across. So I'd like to add Commissioner Young to the legislative committee. Public Lands Committee, Commissioner Drew, Chair, Morai, Dixon. With putting Corey on the other one from Lincoln County, I'm looking at taking Corey off of that one, taking Ken Wellington off of that one. Mike Turnipseed, we still have to have some correspondence with him. Ken said he would stay and travel on his own. It's one of those touchy areas for me. How do we pay per diem for some people on official committees and not on others? I don't know if it's just he doesn't submit that. I don't know the rules to that. Mr. Newton, is there anything that says that if they're on a formal committee, they are entitled to compensation of per diem?
But not required to request that.
Okay.
So if they
So
choose not to.
If he chooses not to, that's on his own. And with that being an understanding going in, I would have no trouble leaving Ken Wellington on there. We're going to talk to Mike Turnipseed and Scott. Commissioner Rain, would you be interested in serving on the Public Lands Committee with Commissioner Drew as chairman? I'm sorry?
Sure.
Okay, all righty.
Yes.
Predatory, Commissioner Wallace is listed as chairman. I've asked Commissioner Morai to also be with Commissioner Wallace on that, and we're still waiting for one appointment to the commission, so there may be an addition some point down the road to that committee, but right now those will be the two that we have assigned to that. Tag Allocation Committee, myself, I'm going to leave there as chair. We need to get that going. I plan on having a meeting in conjunction with our next commission meeting. We'll do it the Thursday evening before, and we're going to get that thing kicked off and going. Commissioner Macbeth, if you'll stay on there, I'd like to have you on there. I'm looking at Jim Janae, Lyon County, Rex Flowers, Washoe County, and Joe Prim, Persian County, as the tag allocation and application act committee. Commissioner Wallace?
Just to back up just a minute on that state predatory animal and rodent committee,
Yeah.
I think we only need to have one.
Oh, we only have to have one? Okay. All
I
right.
mean, not
Yeah.
that I want to stick myself on there permanently, but I
Okay.
guess we'll stick
All right.
with that.
All right. But with that, with the people that I just put on there, that would, Ken Wellington, Corey Lytle, Mel Belding, and Judy Karen would no longer be on there, and Chad Bliss would no longer be an honorary member to the Tag Allocation Committee. But we do need to get that one going, and I do want people that participate in the commission meetings and are there on a regular basis. Trapping Regulation Committee, do not see making any changes on that one at the current time.
Chairman Robb,
Macbeth.
with Ron Murray's resignation, that leaves you at 4.
We do have 4, but I'd like to
You're
wait.
okay with
I'd
that?
like to
Okay,
wait.
just want to make sure you know.
And we do know we have some possible people coming on the commission, and maybe that person wouldn't want to take that committee assignment, I'll talk to whoever is appointed at that time and see what committees they may want to be on. If they want to be on that one, we'll put them there. If not, we'll look for a fifth on that one, just so we can not have the open meeting law thing if you talk to one person. Wayne Kirch, don't see any changes on that. Wildlife Damage Committee, I don't see any changes on that. And Wildlife Heritage Committee, Commissioner Walls, Chairman, myself, Bill Young, Glenn Bunch, and Joe Prim from Persian County. So I think that pretty much all. Scholarship Committee, look at leaving it the same. Did it work out for you last year, Commissioner Macbeth? It would require travel to Reno because those interviews are day long, but it was one of the more rewarding things I did on the time I was on there. And if you're still interested, that's yeah, for next year. Okay. All right. With that being said, that's my thoughts at this point. I'd entertain anybody's input on the commission, and we can take it out. It is listed as an action item, so we will have public comment on it also. But any comments from the commission at this point on that?
Just to be clear, on the Public Lands Committee, I would have Commissioners Rain, Macbeth, and Morai still on that committee, assuming they're all still interested in serving.
Correct. Any commission comments?
I'll just ask the question, does that create it's not a quorum, so we shouldn't have a problem with quorum of the commissioners on some kind of committee. When we get to our other appointment, it won't be an issue, but in the meantime, is it perception?
How many are on that?
4.
It's not a quorum of the commission, but it's a quorum of the currently active members. So you'd have to be careful if you schedule a meeting prior to that chair being filled.
Okay.
Because then you would have a quorum. So it would have to be noticed and all the other fun with the open meeting laws that was referred to just a minute ago.
Okay. We'll
Doesn't a quorum have to be more than half?
No, it's half or more. It's a quorum if you have 4 of 8.
That's why I was asking, it's easy when it's 5 of 9, but when it's 4 of 4, I didn't know, that's why I brought it up.
Well, and that's one of those where the belt and suspenders approach to me is appropriate. I would not, Commissioner Rain has a point, there is some disagreement in the law as to what happens on a quorum when you have an even number. But from my perspective, you're always better on the open meeting law stuff to be overly cautious, and that's why I stated it as I did a moment ago.
Yeah, because a 4-4 vote, you lose, so you're still, right?
But the quorum for open meeting law isn't dependent on the 4-4 tie and what happens with the outcome of a particular item. It's more whether an active or a 50% or more of the body is represented, and if it is, then you have to agendize it.
Majority was 50%.
Okay. Any further comment from the commission? Commissioner Drew?
Just a clarification, I think it's in the chair's purview to assign committees, and I don't think we need a motion on this, but just for clarification, that is the case.
Yeah, I don't think we'll need a motion, but it is listed as action. So with that being said, is there any public comment on this? There's multiple of you in the audience that have committee assignments, so if you have anything to say, Mr. Dixon.
For the record, Paul Dixon, Chairman of Clark County Advisory Board. First off, I want to thank you for your recognition that some of us sit in the audience all the time out here in your committee assignments, and I think spreading some of that around and making the people that are actively here interacting with you part of those committees is really important. And I consider it an honor to be asked to continue to serve on the committees that you have me on, so thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, bring back to commission for any more comments. Commissioner Wallace?
Just a quick comment, if when Suzanne gets this updated on the website, if we could get a